The first time Sarah had seen the brownstone on side in 1909, and Sarah had immediately fallen in love with its antiquated feel when they de-moved in 15 years ago. She relished the sculpted animals and dragons crawling up the side, the two large gargoyles at the top. They made her feel part of something old and important. It had taken some convincing to pry Eric away from his dream of a cool loft space downtown, but in the end, they had both been glad she'd persisted. She just wished it didn't feel quite so empty these days. Why does Manuel do that? She asked Eric once they were out of earshot. Do what? Treat me like I'm a fragile bird or something. He's just being friendly. It's his job. I didn't see him offering you an umbrella. Eric chuckled. Maybe he has a crush on you. Oh, please, she softened. He's just being nice. As they walked together down Park Avenue, rays of sun peeked through the clouds. The light glinted off a shiny car, and she caught her own gird reflected back at her, dark and alone. She could already feel Eric pulling away, and she leaned in toward him instinctively. He smiled back at her, and the sky seemed to brighten even more. They stopped at a corner, and without saying a word, he wrapped her in a warm embrace. For just a moment, there was a perfect peace between them. I love you, he said, holding her close. I love you too, she answered, and meant it. I have to run. She looked into his eyes. Me too, she sighed. You know how she gets when I'm late. I do. He laughed, drawing back. I'll see you later on. Okay. His gaze accompanied her as she turned and walked a few steps down the block. When she looked back, his eyes met hers and he waved. Their little routine, one of the few that had survived the years. It always made her feel safe to know he was there, watching her go. She reached the opposite corner and turned back to look for him one last time. He was already gone. Sarah looked at her phone and kicked herself. She wasn't in danger of being late for her appointment with Dr. Robin. She'd set the appointment back this week. Now she had an hour to kill, not quite worth going back home at this point. If she did that, she might not feel like coming back out. Even after almost 2 years, the appointments were still as difficult as they were necessary. She didn't like to admit it, but she knew she was benefiting from them. Sarah walked over to Fifth Avenue and entered Central Park. A gust of wind blew around her, waving her coat open and scattering leaves along the pavement. Fall was well underway. Near the entrance, she stopped to look at a ginkgo, now naked. A sea of fan-shaped leaves littered the ground under its trunk. The tree had shed all of its leaves overnight. Was it a coordinated surrender?